Hi, this is Sarah, and in this short video, I'm going to reveal a weird little secret that will let you start speaking any language you want in just 10 short days, while practicing for just 30 minutes a day, with no textbook, no grammar drills, no classes, no flashcards, and without studying any vocabulary at all. In fact, even though this might sound impossible now, once you watch this short presentation and do what it says, this rapid language learning technique I'm about to show you has been used by over 25 million ecstatic men and women around the world. You'll feel like you suddenly have the magic keys to the language center of your mind. You'll finally be able to take that trip to Italy you've been dreaming of and talk to locals with confidence. You'll shock your date, not to mention the waiter, when you order wine in absolutely perfect accent-free French. You might even get a leg up at work by being the one person who can speak Chinese and impress clients at dinner. And I personally promise you what I'm about to teach you will work, no matter how old you are, no matter how bad you were at foreign language in school, even if you flunked high school Spanish or French and got an F on every test, no matter how busy you are, and no matter how many times you've tried and failed to learn a new language before. Even if you've hired a private tutor, took intensive classes, studied for years in high school, or invested in expensive software and were disappointed like so many people are with the results. So why has learning a foreign language always seemed so hard, even though it should be the easiest thing in the world? I don't know about you, but the first time I tried to learn a foreign language, it wasn't fun and easy. It was a nightmare. In 7th grade, I was forced to sign up for French class. Every day, I'd shuffle into the classroom, cram myself into one of those uncomfortable desks, and spend 45 minutes trying to force myself to pay attention to grammar rules, sentence constructions, and endless, painful vocabulary lists, all while hoping like crazy that I wouldn't be called on to explain the difference between present perfect and future imperfect, or something else ridiculous like that. Now, here's the really sad part. I was a pretty good student. But even after 3 years of French, even though I knew tons of vocabulary words and conjugations, I still couldn't speak the language as well as your average French 2-year-old. And I felt embarrassed and dumb every time I opened my mouth to try to talk to someone who did know French, someone who'd grown up with the language or just picked it up by living over there. Finally, like so many people I know, I just gave up. I resigned myself to never being able to speak a second language, to feeling like there was something wrong with me, and to always being disappointed and ashamed. But then a few years ago, I stumbled onto a simple question that changed everything for me and opened a door that led me to speaking fluent French in less time than I ever thought possible. What's the big question? Well, it sounds kind of silly, but here it is. Have you ever seen a 2-year-old studying a vocabulary list? I'm totally serious. Think about it. If you've been around kids at all, you know they suck up language like a sponge. It's almost like they can't help themselves. They're like little language learning machines. But kids don't study grammar rules, take vocabulary tests, or sit in a classroom to learn how to speak. In fact, we don't teach kids to speak at all. We just expect them to do it. They learn by doing what humans have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. Listening. You actually discover that adults can learn a new language much faster than kids can. Honestly, learning new languages so fast is a survival mechanism. Language is what makes us the dominant species on the planet, and if we couldn't learn languages really fast, we simply wouldn't have survived as long as we did. In fact, when you look at how the human brain works, you'll discover that in a weird way, you already know Spanish, you already know German. Every language on Earth is structurally pretty much the same and is embedded deep in your mind. And right now, as you watch this video, you already have the ability to almost accidentally pick up any language you want in no time at all, in the same way you can sing along to thousands of songs you never meant to learn. The fact is, humans remember sounds and store them away in our memory automatically and unconsciously, even when we're not paying attention, which means we can soak up languages incredibly quickly without really working at it at all. In fact, working at it by studying a textbook or taking a bunch of tests is a great way to make sure you never learn a foreign language, or that it takes you years and years of tedious work. When I finally figured this out, I was shocked and a little mad. But more than that, I was blown away by how quickly French phrases that stymied me for years suddenly just made sense. And at how my mind just opened up to new words, phrases, and ideas like a hungry bird waiting for a worm. So if learning a language is so easy, why don't you speak 2, 3, or even 4 languages right now? Great question. Here's the answer. Back in the 60s, a professor at UCLA and Ohio State named Dr. Paul Pimsleur got really frustrated with the way we teach foreign languages to kids, and downright embarrassed at how few Americans could speak anything but English. Looking at the way we taught language in schools, Dr. Pimsleur wanted to figure out what we were doing so very wrong. So he started to really study the way children and polylinguists, folks who know 3, 5, 7, even dozens of languages, pick up language so quickly, and compared it to the rote memorization drills we teach in school. Now, you've probably never heard of Dr. Pimsleur, but he's kind of a celebrity, often referred to as the Einstein of language learning. Why? Because just like Einstein, he thought way outside the box. And after years of research, he figured out a simple system to almost magically install a new language into any person's mind so that they can start speaking in just 10 short days. Let me just share with you the big ideas Dr. Pimsleur discovered that make learning a new language an absolute snap. First, Dr. Pimsleur discovered that despite what your high school Spanish teacher says, repetition actually destroys your ability to learn a new language fast and can set you back years. Instead of endlessly repeating words, Dr. Pimsleur discovered there was a magic interval between repetitions that caused new words and concepts to stick in your mind, and that when his students studied a new language according to this magic interval, they could permanently pick up words and phrases after just 3 or 4 repetitions, instead of the dozens or hundreds it would take before. Second, Dr. Pimsleur showed that learning to write a language before you speak it, like we do in our school system, is destructive and a complete waste of time. That's certainly not the way little kids learn. Years and years of research, not to mention a lot of everyday proof, shows that the only way for the human mind to rapidly acquire a new language isn't by studying textbooks or using software. It's by hearing the language used naturally in an everyday context and interacting with the language so it really sticks in your mind. As Dr. Pimsleur was fond of saying, when you know what sounds right, everything else is easy. Need proof? Think about this for a second. If I say, I bred needs, does that sound right to you? Of course not. At a deep level, your brain knows that the phrase should be, I need bread. And that has nothing to do with you learning grammar rules or thinking about verbs, nouns, and clauses. It's because your internal language software already knows what language is supposed to sound like. Cool, huh? Third, the doctor stuck a dagger in the heart of the learn a ton of words and study for years myth by focusing language learning on a few core function words, which you can think of as building blocks. Words that you use every day, the words that children naturally just pick up in their everyday lives. See, you might think that you need to learn thousands upon thousands of words to learn a new language. But in reality, the core vocabulary you need to get by in a new language and even sound like a native speaker is tiny. And when you focus on those function words, your mind automatically learns grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation all at once, and without any of the mind-numbing study of traditional language learning. Finally, Dr. Pimsleur established his core principle of anticipation, showing that requiring students to anticipate the answer to a question drastically lessened how long it took for them to learn. If you've tried to learn a new language before, you've probably felt that deer-in-the-headlights feeling when someone asks you a question, and you desperately dig through your memory trying to figure out what to say in response. Using Dr. Pimsleur's anticipation principle, you actually learn to predict what someone is asking for. So you have the answer ready instantly, without having to work at and without having to panic. Summing it up, according to Dr. Pimsleur's research, in order to rapidly and easily learn a second language, you just need to do 4 things. 1. You need to hear the language spoken by native speakers in everyday situations and utterly ignore writing and reading until the core hooks of the language are deep in your mind. 2. You need to anticipate the answers to questions to truly engage your mind in the learning process. 3. You need to focus on core function words and phrases used in everyday conversation. 4. You need to practice for only 30 minutes a day, even if you have to break it up throughout the day, such as while getting dressed, commuting to work, or while you're on your lunch break. When Dr. Pimsleur's research got out, it sent shockwaves through the language learning world. Over 25 million people all over the world have used Dr. Pimsleur's methods to start speaking dozens of different languages fast, without textbooks, without vocab lists, and without working at the language at all. Heck, Dr. Pimsleur's techniques have been sourced by military and government agencies like the FBI, and you know they wouldn't be buying just any method unless it had a long track record of success. Now, if you're like a lot of people, you might be thinking, okay, you've convinced me there's a faster and easier way to speak a new language, but how do I actually do it? I'm glad you asked, because with your permission, I'd like to introduce you to the quick and simple course, Speak Any Language in Just 10 Short Days. The Quick and Simple course is a step-by-step audio program based on Dr. Pimsleur's proven methods and is designed to take you from knowing nothing about a language to mastering the basics in just 10 short days. And it works even if you don't speak a single word of that language now, even if you flunked your language classes in high school, and even if you think you're just plain bad at foreign languages. Now, am I saying you'll be 100% fluent in your new language just 10 days from now? Not at all. But I am saying that when you grab this shockingly affordable course and go through it like millions have before, you'll rapidly, almost unconsciously learn how to order at a restaurant without needing anyone to translate. Tell someone you love them. Ask for or give directions. Talk about yourself, what you want, what you need, and what you dream of. Rent a car. Travel without a guide. Listen in on conversations wherever you go. Even better, if you're like most of the thousands and thousands of people who've gone through this program, you'll sound like you were born there. Native speakers will stop in their tracks and comment on your flawless accent. You'll start thinking in your new language whenever you speak it. You'll find yourself responding to questions automatically without having to scour your memory for the right word to say. And you'll be on your way to truly mastering a second language and smiling as you look forward to learning your third or even your fourth. Your quick and simple course comes on 4 CDs, which will rush to your door today. And going through the course is as simple as putting on your headphones for 30 minutes a day for just 10 short days. All you need to do is sit back, push play, and let the audio guide you. It really is that easy, and you can use the program anytime, anywhere, even while you're doing something else. In fact, if you're like our thousands of ecstatic customers, you'll learn your second language on your lunch break, during your drive or walk to work, while getting dressed in the morning, while shaving, while working out, while cooking, while washing the dishes. Anytime you've got a pair of headphones and a few minutes. Your quick and simple course is available in 16 languages, including our most popular ones, such as Spanish, French, Italian, German, Mandarin Chinese, which is the official language in mainland China, Taiwan, and Singapore, as well as Eastern Arabic, Egyptian Arabic, Cantonese Chinese, which is mainly spoken in Hong Kong, Greek, Hebrew, Japanese, Korean, Polish, Brazilian Portuguese, Russian, Vietnamese. The Pimsleur approach is based on over 50 years of scientific research. It's been used by and tested on millions of people all over the world and is scientifically designed to lock language in your brain. Just listen to what Monica had to say. This is fantastic. I've always wanted to speak Egyptian Arabic, and I've been trying for the past 2 years. Nothing worked till now. Within the first week of using your quick and simple course, I learned more than I managed to learn during those 2 years. I'm so amazed. Thank you so much. You've made one of my biggest dreams come true. Here's one of my favorites from Drayton. I used to have to visit our office in Frankfurt regularly to review work being created for our biggest client, American Express. It was embarrassing because I couldn't speak the language, not a word. I knew what a difference it made because when I went to our offices in Madrid or Paris, I had enough French and Spanish to get by. I took Pimsleur German on vacation with me in Barbados. I spent less than an hour every day for 7 days. I strolled up and down each morning outside our chalet looking at the ocean, headphones on, listening and repeating. When I went to Frankfurt shortly afterwards, my colleagues were really astonished. So was I, to be honest. And those are just a few of the tens of thousands of emails we've received from incredibly satisfied men and women from around the world after using this simple, proven system. Okay, this sounds amazing, and I'm interested. How do I get started? Honestly, this is the only course like this in existence, so there's nothing to compare it to. So let's just think of the alternatives you could try, or you've already tried, to learn a second language, get ahead in your career, or be able to mingle with locals in any country you visit. You could try buying that expensive yellow-covered software program you see heavily advertised at the mall and airport, you know, Rosetta Stone. After visiting a kiosk, you might walk away spending $700 just to get started. And if you're like most people who try software programs, you'll find yourself frustrated and annoyed at having to spend hours in front of your computer, especially if you're coming home tired after sitting behind a computer all day at work. This might be why so many people who start using those expensive software programs just give up and never even come close to learning a second language at all. Next, you could try enrolling in university language classes. That will cost you between $4,000 and $10,000. And for at least the first year, you'll spend all your time with your head in a textbook learning useless grammar rules and endless vocabulary lists without learning how to actually speak a second language at all. Learning a language isn't like learning math or science, but that's exactly how everyone tries to teach it. Honestly, if you're watching this video, you've probably already tried learning a language that way in high school or college, and you already know how ineffective those techniques actually are. Finally, you could try total immersion. Taking off to a foreign country for months or even a full year to finally get a new language. You'll probably learn a new language that way, as long as you've got the guts to go out and talk to native speakers. But it will cost you at least $25,000, and probably closer to $100,000 depending on airfare and where you want to live. And you'll have to uproot your entire life, leave your friends and family behind, and get permission from your boss to be out of the country for months on end, which really isn't very likely. Let me ask you a question. Years from now, when you're looking back on your life, how are you going to feel if you could have learned a second language, or a third or a fourth, simply by listening to your iPod or MP3 player for 30 minutes a day for 10 short days? Not to get depressing here, but most people let their dreams and ambitions pass them by. They get too busy or come up with some other lame excuse to forget to improve themselves and become the person they always wanted. How are you going to feel if you could have taken that first step towards becoming bilingual or even trilingual? Could have learned a new language as quickly and easily as your average 2-year-old, exposed yourself to a whole new world of culture, conversation, and opportunity. Just by putting on a pair of headphones for 10 days in a row, and you didn't do it? The regular retail price of the Quick and Simple course is just $30. That's less than one session of one class at a local language school, not to mention what you'll pay for supplies and gas. And a lot less than you'll pay for the only other method that could get you anywhere near the results we're offering you today, which is true immersion in a foreign country. Anyone who used the Quick and Simple course to learn a second language would say it's an absolute steal at $30. And honestly, with the cost of creating the CDs and the effort that was put into developing each of these programs, the business guys tell me the absolute least we should sell this program for is $20. But you know what? I want to make this a real no-brainer for you. I know you've been thinking about learning a new language, whether for your career, for travel, or just to improve yourself, for a long time. And I know you've always regretted not learning a second language when you were young, when it was supposedly so easy to do. Though you'll discover it's actually much easier for an adult to learn a second language with Dr. Pimsleur's techniques. I want you to try this program for yourself and see how well it actually works. That's why, as part of Pimsleur's 30th year anniversary, I've convinced my boss to let you have the Quick and Simple course in any language you want for just $10 if you act today. And because I really wanted to make this offer as generous as possible, I also received permission to offer you 100% free shipping if you act now. And all you have to do to get started is click the orange Add to Cart button below and choose which language you've always wanted to learn. Spanish, French, Italian, German, Chinese. You have 16 languages to choose from in all. We'll immediately ship your course directly to your home, office, or P.O. box. Simply listen to each lesson for 30 minutes per day, and in just 10 days, you'll be amazed as you gain conversational skill in your new language in shockingly little time. Pimsleur is a best-selling and world-famous language method that's been relied on by more than 25 million people over the past 30 years. Dr. Pimsleur's techniques have been featured in the New York Times, the Daily News, Forbes, PBS, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the Boston Herald, and dozens more publications in dozens of languages all around the world. And of course, you're backed up by our proficiency guarantee. Speak by the 10th day or you don't pay. No questions asked. Here's how it works. Simply click the orange Add to Cart button below. Choose which language you'd like to start speaking in just 10 short days and place your order. Use the material, go through the audios, experience for yourself how easy it is to just pick up a new language, even one you've never even heard spoken before, using this revolutionary and proven methodology, and without ever having to do language drills, learn grammar rules, or memorize endless lists of vocabulary words. If you aren't absolutely blown away by the experience, if you don't get amazing results, simply send back your Quick and Simple course within 30 days for a prompt and courteous refund. I think that after you experience for yourself how easy it is to learn a language using the simple method, you'll see the small $10 investment I'm asking you to make today as an absolute steal. But you really do have to act right now. We're offering the Quick and Simple course for just $10 plus free shipping as a way to celebrate Pimsleur's 30th anniversary of helping the world communicate better. But we're planning on raising the price back to $20, $30, or possibly much higher in the future. See, here's the weird thing. When I tell a lot of people that you can start speaking a second language, even a hard language like Chinese, in just 10 short days, just 30 minutes a day, and for just $10, well, to most people, that just sounds unbelievable. It just sounds too cheap, especially if you've been struggling to learn a second language and failing for years, or if you've seen ads for $700 software on TV. Our mission is to spread the Pimsleur approach to as many people as humanly possible, to make everyone on this planet bilingual if we can. But to a lot of people, it just doesn't make sense that you can get such incredible results for less than the cost of a movie ticket. And that's why we just might need to raise the price to something more believable and reasonable. But if this video is still up, it means you can still get the Quick and Simple course in the language of your choice for just $10 if you act right now. Listen, I don't want to put too fine a point on this, but when you think about it, you've really just got 3 choices ahead of you right now. Option number 1, stop watching this video and leave this page. Do nothing. Keep going the way you are now. Keep being frustrated by and maybe even ashamed by the fact that you can't speak a second language. Option number 2, enroll in an expensive language learning school where you're forced to pay out the nose just to drill vocabulary and try to ignore that tiny voice in the back of your mind that tells you again and again, there was an easier, cheaper, and better way, and you didn't take it. Option number 3, Risk nothing at all today. Grab the quick and simple course, plus receive free shipping for just $10 today. Simply slip on your headphones for 30 minutes a day for 10 short days and discover how easy it is to start becoming multilingual the quick and simple way. Pimsleur has been bought by the FBI and over 25 million ecstatic customers worldwide. And all you have to do to get started is click the orange Add to Cart button below and choose which language you've always wanted to learn. Spanish, French, Italian, German, Chinese. You have 16 languages to choose from in all. We'll rush your program to you, and we'll even cover shipping on our end. You'll be able to start speaking another language within just 10 days. Let me ask you a question. Do you want to learn the mechanics of how a language works, or just how to speak it? Can you imagine what it's going to feel like to just know what to say without scouring your memory for vocabulary or worrying about grammar? Can you imagine what it's going to feel like to have that perfect accent, to feel comfortable in a foreign country, to know that learning any language you want is just 10 short days away? I bet you can, and I bet you can feel how much you want this right now. Over 25 million people around the world have learned a second language the simple, easy way with Pimsleur. And you can too, just by clicking the orange Add to Cart button below right now. I hope you learned a lot from this presentation and were both inspired and encouraged to learn a new language. Thank you for your time today. Still here? Let me just answer some of the most common questions you might have about the Pimsleur approach to language learning and how you can start speaking any language in just 10 days, even if you don't know a single word now. I took language classes for years in school and never got anywhere. Can I really start speaking a language in just 10 days? The short answer is absolutely. We sometimes think that schools have a vested interest in making it take a long time to learn a language. After all, the longer it takes, the more money they make. In college, usually only third and fourth year classes are conversational. Unfortunately, language learning is treated like math or science, and that's exactly what it isn't. When you learn to speak by ear, you'll find that you intuitively grasp the language. What if instead you learned to speak at a high degree of proficiency first and then learned everything else? At least you'd be thinking and speaking in the language for 4 years and wouldn't forget it for life. How is this different than Rosetta Stone? The short answer is that it's 100% audio-based and doesn't require a computer. Dr. Pimsleur found that the most effective way to learn to speak is by ear, and one of the advantages of using an audio program is that it's portable and easy to use. That means you can use it while you're doing something else, like going to work, doing the dishes, working out, and so forth. We've had a lot of customers who have bought Rosetta Stone, and the common feedback is that it's fairly impractical. You see, most customers who buy language learning courses are at least 35 years old, educated, and work behind a computer all day. It's really difficult to make time at home after work. Will I be able to read and write in a foreign language after using this program? The short answer is no, and here's why that's a good thing. Dr. Pimsleur found that focusing on reading and writing before learning to speak makes it very difficult to learn a language. He wanted to find a way to allow adults to learn faster than children, and essentially, it meant adults needed to learn like children, and that's done by hearing. As Dr. Pimsleur used to say, when you know what sounds right, everything else is easy, and that includes reading and writing. We'd suggest going to your local college bookstore and buying a textbook if you want to learn to read and write. We only focus on oral proficiency. That being said, if you're learning a language with an alphabet similar to English, like German, French, Italian, and so forth, after learning to speak, when moving on to reading, you'll experience a feeling like seeing an English word written on paper that you perhaps had only ever heard by ear before. In other words, it feels familiar. I don't have a lot of free time. Can I use the Pimsleur approach? Absolutely. Just listen 30 minutes a day on your iPod, MP3, or CD player. If you can't listen in one session, then break it up. And remember, you can learn anywhere, and there's always 30 minutes in a day. You don't need to repeat a lesson more than once. I've always had trouble with my thick accent. Will the Pimsleur approach help me? You definitely don't want to learn your second language from someone who learned it as a second language. The Pimsleur approach uses only native speakers as teachers. This means you'll learn to speak without an American accent. There's a very special methodology used in the course that really lets you hear a word. You'll find it neat when you try it. This is one of the most effective ways to nail the accent. That's why many actors use the Pimsleur approach when they need to take on foreign roles. You can even make yourself sound like a foreigner speaking English, at least the ones who didn't use our English course. Aren't I too old to learn a new language? I thought only kids could learn a new language easily. You're never too old. Can you believe that Dr. Pimsleur discovered that adults can learn a language even faster than kids? For each minute of instruction, he could create a building block of knowledge that would have taken a child 4 to 5 hours to be exposed to in a natural environment. And he could sequence his lessons using memory decay patterns so that words were reintroduced in new structures, allowing his students to learn something new while repeating something previously learned and not feeling like they were memorizing. If the Pimsleur approach works so well, why isn't everybody using it? Why are our schools still making kids do vocabulary drills and grammar tests? I'm sure you've heard of many people complaining about our school system and trying to change it. Even Bill Gates built a public school here in Philadelphia to try new approaches to learning. Right now, there are federally mandated educational standards like No Child Left Behind that force teachers to only teach for a test that caters to the lowest mental common denominator. And ongoing school funding is tied to reaching minimum scores on those standardized tests. That's why you hear of scandals where teachers are incented to help their students cheat, because otherwise they would lose their job or their school could be forced to close due to a lack of federal funding. Fortunately, there are a few progressive teachers like Mary Snipes who teaches Spanish at a high school in Arizona. She uses Pimsleur in her class and had to pay for the course out of her own pocket. Did you know that many schools are so strapped for cash that they only ever plan to buy textbooks every 10 years? Isn't that incredible? You know, when it comes to schools, one day when our company can finally breathe for a moment, since we've been growing like gangbusters since 2002, we're going to challenge all of the textbook companies that sell to schools. We've joked over here about the massive change we could create. What if we gave schools our language courses and only charged them money for any students who didn't get an A or B because that would be the school's fault? We really have a foolproof system for learning a language if you can invest just 30 minutes a day. And if 30 minutes a day is too frequent, or you need to skip a day here or there, don't worry about it. This isn't a race. Just continue where you left off. Who shouldn't try the Pimsleur approach? Anyone who is 10 or older will be successful with the Pimsleur approach. We even have customers who are 80 years old. Some people believe that they're visual learners and don't think Pimsleur will help them. Dr. Paul Pimsleur himself was a visual learner. He was a professor and loved to read. However, he couldn't ignore the proof he saw in his research. Learning by ear is the most effective way to learn a language because humans are uniquely gifted to attach complex meanings to sounds. And that's why any language learning program, to be truly effective, must be sound-based rather than visual. Look, the Pimsleur approach is as easy as listening to music. You can sing along with more than 2,000 songs because of a function of working memory called the phonological loop. The Pimsleur approach harnesses this phonological loop so that you remember not just the words, but exactly how they sound and what they mean. That all being said, we came up with this simple 10-point checklist. If any of the following 10 items appeal to you, then you definitely should not buy our course. You want to memorize grammar rules. You want verb conjugation drills that you can practice over and over. You want to reference a dictionary frequently while speaking. You enjoy studying textbooks and answering the review questions at the end. You like homework. You like taking tests. You want to learn to read before you learn to speak. You really want to do drills on a computer and you're willing to block out time for that. You like to spend hours memorizing vocabulary lists. You believe learning should be hard. Obviously, I'm kidding around here, but I hope that makes the point. Could you explain why the Pimsleur method is so effective and how I should use it for the best results? The Pimsleur approach is the easiest, most reliable, most natural way to learn a second language. It's all because of Dr. Pimsleur's 4 legendary principles. His first principle is graduated interval recall. Dr. Pimsleur made a lifelong study of how long we remember new information. Even more importantly, he was able to determine the precise intervals between repetitions that are necessary to achieve maximum retention. If we are reminded too soon or too late, retention suffers. The Pimsleur approach repeats words and phrases at precisely the right intervals and on exactly the right days. His second principle is anticipation. Dr. Pimsleur discovered that repetition alone isn't nearly enough. Learning happens most easily when you anticipate the answers to questions. The Pimsleur approach is the only method that triggers correct anticipation, and you're going to love it. His third principle is organic learning. Organic learning is natural learning. You learn to speak long before you learn to write, and you learn to speak by hearing words spoken correctly and in context. Dr. Pimsleur's research was the first to prove that language is assimilated naturally and effortlessly through hearing. Other language courses use the opposite approach, attempting to teach language as though it were math or science, which is why most people think it's hard to learn a foreign language. Finally, his fourth principle is core vocabulary. You don't need to learn all the words in a language, just the ones people use every day. Fluency isn't determined by how many words you know, but by how well you use the words and phrases that are part of common everyday language. You don't need to learn 1 million words to learn English. You can be fluent and articulate with a vocabulary of only 2,500 words and phrases. The Pimsleur approach focuses on these 4 essential principles, and as a result, the time and energy required to learn a second language is dramatically reduced. To answer the second part of your question, the best way to use the course is to just listen for 30 minutes a day. And the reality is that Pimsleur goes where you go and works perfectly while you're doing something else, so you'll stick with it, and that makes all the difference. What's your most popular language? By far, it's Spanish, which is almost 50% of our business. If you're not sure about which language to buy, we'd highly recommend you try Spanish. Imagine the adventure you can have traveling with ease to the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Spain, and all of Latin America. If you want to live like a king or retire down south where your dollars go far, Spanish could also be life-changing. After Spanish, the most popular languages are French, Italian, German, and Mandarin Chinese, in that order. How do I know I can trust your guarantee? We've been online since 2000 and have served millions of people. Our proficiency guarantee is very straightforward. Speak by the 10th day or you don't pay. No questions asked. I don't think we would be one of the fastest growing companies in America for the past 4 years if we weren't honoring our word. We've won awards such as the Inc. 5000, Philadelphia 100, Inner City 100, Future 50, Technology 500, and year after year, we're among the 500 largest online retailers in the U.S., according to Internet Retailer magazine. I think you'll be pleased to know that if you ever have any questions, we answer phone calls in 30 seconds or less. Now, all you need to do is try out the Pimsleur approach and discover how easy it is to learn a second language without memorizing vocabulary, without written homework or tests, and using the same method that's been purchased by the FBI and millions of people around the world. Follow your heart. Spend $10 and 30 minutes a day for 10 days. There's a Czech proverb which says, "You live a new life for every new language you speak." If you know only one language, you live only once. How many times have you spent just a few days and gained a new perspective on life? That's what really happens when you gain your new language through the Pimsleur approach. Just click the orange Add to Cart button below and select the language you'd like to learn the fast and easy way. Place your order on the secure order page and we'll rush your quick and simple course out to you right away. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Please email us or call